before we started, I wanted to show you that Zastava. Dude, it sold.
No.
It was listed today, and I thought about driving up there to buy it. To like, not even ask the guy. Drive up there and buy it. It's a 65 Zaz. So, like I said, it's from what I remember, it's a 4-cylinder air-cooled, rear-engined. I think it was a V4. My Lada is what I really liked, but this was the Zastava. It's a pretty cool car. So that's an Eastern Bloc car as well. Oh, shoot.
What is that?
That's one of our phones near the mic. Oh, that's my phone near your mic.
Oh,
yeah.
I was holding it pretty close.
Yep. Pretty cool, though. The suicide front doors.
Yeah.
It's a 4-cylinder rear-engined, air-cooled car.
Yeah.
He wanted $3,000 for it. He listed it this morning, an hour and a half from here. And like I said, I thought about going up there with the trailer and just picking it up and bagging it and selling it.
Yeah. The car, like I can see the vision, but yeah, this thing looks like a piece of dump.
It's a turd.
Yeah.
Like it was rattle canned puke green at some point.
Very bad.
And I don't know if it was done.
It's like lime green.
Yeah, he said it was painted.
Have you vomited before? If your vomit's this color, John, that's not okay.
Yeah, well, I'm colorblind, so don't you know I'm colorblind?
Yeah, you've talked about that. Yeah, this is more like Kermit the Frog green. This is bad.
To me, it's all green. Puke green seems just as bad as Kermit the Frog green. And to me, I always thought Kermit was a walking, talking pile of puke. Because I'm colorblind. But it's a really cool car. They're super ugly, but the fact that they're suicide doors, rear engine air cooled, I mean, and you don't see anyone slamming them over here.
Yeah, an original one of those. Like not that one is what I'm saying.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
A different one of that vehicle I think would be really cool. But not that one.
The first comment that's on this says, on a scale from 1 to Maserati biturbo, how fun is it to get parts?
Oh, that's a good comment.
He
probably just got bullied so bad about that car that he just took it off. He marked it as sold and then took it off.
I don't know. There's a bunch in here that say messaged.
Yeah, they're messaging him to tell him how that he should take this off the market. Like, hey, dude, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but like this thing sucks. And you want how much money for it?
One guy goes, Zaz really rad. And under that, a guy goes, Zaz really bad.
Oh, man. That's how Dr. Seuss books are made.
And so Speed Hunters featured my Autovaz, my Lada 2101. Yeah. And the name of the article was Put It in H. And I didn't really...
Put it in H?
Yeah, and I
don't know what that means.
And I didn't understand that at first. And in the comments of this Zaz, someone put a GIF from The Simpsons and Homer Simpson's in a Russian car, and the dude's pushing him off the lot, and he goes, "Put it in H." Another comment.
That's cool.
Put it in H.
That's cool.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. So, I miss my Russian car. I mean, being able to find that in Europe and ship it over and kind of basically restore it. It wasn't a nut and bolt restoration, but from the body out, it was basically restored. I redid all the trim, the lights, the grill badge, and those were all supplied by friends of mine from Ukraine and Russia. They were sending me parts for free for that car. Like my friend Farid from Moscow sent me.
Get it out of our country.
No, the opposite. Like I totally get that angle.
Yeah.
But more or less, like I've got a box. I saved the box from my friend Valent. Valent, if you're listening, Dyakuyu for the product. And I hope you're safe because he's near Kiev, Ukraine. But anyway, he sent me a box of parts with a handwritten note. The box was handwritten on it. He had like comments on the box, but inside he had a handwritten note with a bunch of Lada parts that he just sent me for free, and basically said, like, I'm honored that you are building Soviet car in America. Like it's
that's
like
cool.
And Farid from Moscow, who sent me the grill badge. Farid's got a red 2101 slammed on chrome steelies, and he's been a Governor's Club guy since like 2013. He's been buying stuff like from Russia from 2013, and he sent me a brand new, like new old stock grill badge because mine was all faded, and for free. He said, "No, this is a gift to you for building CCCP car in America." And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So when I saw this Zaz,
it's really cool.
Not my favorite, for sure, not my favorite.
but it's like local enough.
But I mean, he listed it for $3,000. Yeah. If I'd been able to go up there with $2,000 and buy the car, it'd be cool to just.
It would be cool. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Hey, I'm used to it. This guy here goes, "Why so cheap?" And he's got 2 Zazzes on his trailer.
See that? Let me see that.
Yeah, that's what that green car is.
Yeah,
that'd be an amazing car on the ground. I can't remember what model it is. I'll let everybody know here. We're hot, cool. So we're alive.
I honestly didn't realize until like a little while ago.
It's a Zazz 965. But yeah, it sold right away. 12,000 miles on it. But that's the way all those cars were. They were like utilitarian cars, low mileage, and like spray painted 4 times.
Yeah,
because they spent their life savings. Yeah, they spent their life savings on these cars. In the USSR during the Soviet regime, you had to be, and if I have this right from what I've heard from friends over there, you had to be approved to purchase a motor vehicle.
Oh wow!
And so you had to, like, the way the Communist Party worked, from what I remember in the 70s, was you had to like, because it's communism, like each corporation is in bed with the government basically, or vice versa. And if you worked for a company that served the government in one way or another, and like the analogy I was given from a friend in Eastern Europe said, if you worked for like a chainsaw manufacturer, you made a thing that helped Russia like be more of a country.
Yeah.
You were more apt to be approved to purchase a motor vehicle. Now, you then had to spend almost your entire life savings to purchase that vehicle. So you had to be approved. You had to be like doing something that made you in good standing with the government. Then you spent all your money on this car. And the average wait time after you purchased that car was 3 to 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And from what I heard, many instances, you'd purchase a car in 1971 and you didn't receive it until like 1976. And it was like in a different color than you wanted it. And it's like, I wanted a red one. And they're like, fine, we take car. Like fine. And so the crazy thing is, like, owning my car, mine was a 72, so they were pre-export until 75. They were only Iron Curtain cars. It's kind of crazy thinking about like who bought that car brand new and how long they had to wait. It's a 72 manufactured car, but when did the person take delivery? Pretty crazy. But anyway, so that was today's events.
And that kind of makes more sense too about like why like that sense of pride coming from them to send parts to you. How maybe even if those are like cheap cars, I don't mean like cheap, like inexpensive. I just mean like simple.
Yeah, they're definitely cheaply built.
Right? Yeah. But even if they are, like the value of them is more the worth of it.
Yes, yeah,
and it's more of like a pride. Like we were able to achieve this level. Like, that's really cool to think about.
It's kind of along the same lines as the Toyota Century I just sold. That car was for the Japanese market only. To this day, I hear rumors about like corporate positioned people at Toyota in Japan are disheartened to hear that any Century of any vintage has been exported outside of Japan.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of that car was to be woven in the fiber of the heritage of Japan. That was like the whole point of that car. So they're not even letting the new Centuries out of the country, from what I heard, even if it's a country that's eligible to receive that car. Even though America's 25 years, that they're just not even entertaining the idea of that car leaving Japan. So it's kind of cool because the Lada I had kind of had that fiber to it in the Eastern Bloc as well. But yeah, so no go on the Zazz. I did not put it in H today.
Pass.
Did not put it in H. Well, dude, you're catching up on sleep after Riverside. You said you slept too much last night.
Yeah, too much. So I'm tired.
Yeah. Well, I'm tired too, but it's from lack of sleep, not too much sleep.
Well, I haven't had, enough sleep. And then last night I had too much sleep.
Well, what are we now? We're a week and a half after the show. Ish. What's today? Wednesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday. So we're a week and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, Riverside 7. What a turnout. Biggest you've had yet, right? I mean, I was locked in my booth, but from what I saw, head count looked unreal.
I mean, it's always hard to guess because it is a guess. Like, we don't know. We don't sell tickets.
Yeah, true.
So there's no way for
spectators
us to
just walk in.
Yeah, you just walk in.
Yeah, no head count, really.
And there's people walking in and out all day long.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's definitely a big influx from like, I don't know, 9:30 to like 12.
Yeah.
But maybe even less, maybe like a 9:30, like 11:30. But it felt bigger.
Cars, you approved more cars this year too, right? Or is it relatively the same?
I mean, I think I approved we approved basically the same amount, but I think that more percentage of those owners actually came than normal. Because if we let's say if we approve 450 cars, maybe 400 will show up.
Right. Yeah.
And even then, that's like a good time, like a good amount,
right,
or a high percentage. And this time I think it was like 437, like not including booth cars. These are just like approved event vehicles,
which are
show
outside
cars.
The pavilion.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
I think it was 437, I believe, and I'm pretty sure nearly 437 came.
Yeah.
Like I would guess I need to look at the QR scans, because we have like a QR code when you pull up. We can scan it, check it in. So I can't actually see the real number, but I haven't looked that up yet. But I wouldn't be surprised if 410 came or 415 or something like that came.
Well, head count looked insane.
Yeah.
And the weather was perfect too, so that was amazing.
Yeah.
A little windy and breezy, but for goodness sake, it wasn't raining.
Yeah, it was. I was just expecting it to rain. It was beautiful for a couple of weeks, and then I was like, it's gonna rain. It's gonna downpour. Yeah. And it won't just be it's wet and whatever. My car doesn't look great anymore. It's gonna be thunderstorm.
Yeah, just not letting
we have to leave. Yeah,
right. Yeah,
that's what I was expecting.
Yeah, well, it turned out to be good. It turned out to be great.
And it did, and it did. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday were beautiful days.
Yeah.
The Thursday morning, I think it rained a little bit. Yeah. But I mean, by the time I'd hosted that E36 meet, and then Obsessed and we did the 90s only meet, and by the time the E36 meet came around, I had a windbreaker on, and I think a beanie or something. But I was more than comfortable. I was outside all day long. Yeah. And it was great. I mean, I was also just riding that high of I'm the event organizer and I'm actually out doing something.
Yes, exactly.
I was able to kind of I don't know what's the term, leave the phone off the hook or whatever. I could unplug. There right, I was able to unplug and just go and hang out for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, I was working, but I was there. I drove my car to an E36 meet that I put on,
and the car was done,
and it was there. Yeah. And then better than I expected. And then took it to the 90s only meet, and the whole time I was at and I even went to the LEP meet for a while, and the whole time I was at all of those meets, I wasn't thinking I need to get back because I'm gonna be up till 4 a.m. working on stuff. I scheduled my time out just better this year, and that was so cool. That was my most fun time of the entire weekend. Was, I mean, all day Sunday because it was my daughter's first birthday party, but Thursday, that was the first time that I've been able to how do I explain this? That was the first time I've ever been able to experience a part of Riverside, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm always working it, and I'm always
the curator.
I have to be all the way on point every second of every minute. And Thursday, I was just another guy in town that was cruising his car on a beautiful day. And hey, how cool was that?
Yeah.
The whole, and I knew it then. Because most of the time you look back and you're like, man, I should have thought about. But the whole time I was in the moment, I was like, I'm here. This is what I worked so hard to
that's
so
awesome.
I could have half a day to just hang out.
Yeah.
And that was so cool.
I thought coming down, living here now was going to be so much more relaxed because I live 3 miles or so from the pavilion now.
Yeah.
Because in years prior, the 2.5 other years that I've vended, because March 2020, I brought all my stuff down.
Yeah.
And then it got canceled. But we had the pop-up meet, obviously. And then that fall, I vended. And then last spring, we vended. So I've come from New Hampshire 3 times with a booth set up. But I've had...
Trailer, car.
24-hour drive. I've had to have had everything ready to go by the Sunday before the show, because on Monday I was leaving.
Yeah, you got to stay here for a week. Yeah.
So by the time we got here, we got a chance to just enjoy. So I thought that was going to be the case this time as well. Not the case.
Yeah.
Midnight, the day of the show, midnight, I'm down the road here fixing the Corvair under darkness.
Yeah.
And then after I got the thing fixed by about 12:30 in the morning, Kayla and I stayed up till about 2:30 in the morning wrapping all the movie posters.
Yeah.
Till about 2:30 in the morning. Then I woke up at 5 or 4:45.
Yeah, you were there like the same time I was there.
To start. I was there before you when I first dropped the Corvair off.
Oh yeah, because your Corvair was already there.
Andy was the only guy sitting there in the darkness in the Civic, and I was like, "See you in a minute." And went back, got the 700. Like, it was a rat race. But and without going too deep into that, the rat race was because I was juggling so many things, and I took.
You were also like 3 hours early.
Yeah,
you didn't have to be there that early.
Yeah, but basically the 3 hours I was there early, I would have just caught up on sleep. That was about it. I just felt like I was working right up until the point where I went to bed to go to Riverside, which was just, I mean, in a Corvair breaking down, normally I would have been like, I don't have time for this. I'm going to leave it at home. I'm going to eject this out of my stress memory or my stress bank. But the whole drop was the Patina Paradise drop, and both cars are on everything I'm selling. And I live 3 miles from the pavilion. I'm like, I got to do everything I can to get this thing fixed so I can get to the show. And so anyway, I'm glad you got a chance to like, and just like have everything ready in time. And
first time for me.
That's awesome.
Out of all technically like 8 event weekends.
Hopefully it's a developing pattern. Hopefully next year you get a chance to relax as much as you did this year.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a hope, and I'm gonna work towards that because I didn't. I don't think it wasn't like months out where I planned like, hey, I need to just like bust it until then so that I can take a day for myself.
Yeah.
I just was like, hey man, it would be really cool to have a couple pop-up meets. And that's a big like goal anyway. Right. For there to be like multiple meets and like things to do with like other car people like while you're in town anyway, so that it gives you more of a reason to come earlier and stay longer.
Exactly. Yeah.
That I want that
and enjoy Chattanooga more.
Yeah. Enjoy Chattanooga more.
That's why I live here.
Eat here and hang out here, cruise the streets here, and see like Chattanooga stuff, but also like have a reason. Like if there's like some meets going on, like Wednesday, Thursday,
things going on, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
I love that stuff.
Yeah,
but I think I got like a couple of weeks out, and I was like, well, I think if I can actually like put in more work or not put things off till the last minute,
right?
then because I'm notorious about doing that, but then I bet I could at least enjoy some of it.
Yeah,
and that worked out, and I'm pumped about it. I'm gonna try to do that in the future, but now that I know that it's possible, that probably means mentally I will not do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because now I know it can be done.
Yep.
And so I'm just gonna, shoot myself in the foot there. So
who knows? Hopefully not.
Yeah, I don't know.
But the compound, how nice the weekend went for you is that you were in a new car that you kind of had to. Well, I mean, it was for the most part done the week before, but Aiden just had a lot of the detail work to do before the alignment. But other than that, you and Scud knocked the manual swap out just in time too.
Yeah. We knocked that out in like 2 days. And I mean, really like almost like 2 half days is what it, or maybe a day and a half. But
well, the hiccup between the 6-speed and the 5-speed could have been make or break. That automatic could have gone back in.
Yeah. So that was hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because that automatic trans is sitting on the trans like stand or whatever.
Yep. Already out.
Or on the trans jack, still like strapped down to it that we just pulled out of the car. And I looked at Scott and I was like, I'm not putting that back in. We're doing something. I'm not putting that back in the car. If I put that back in the car, I'm listing for sale tomorrow. Yeah. It's like I can't do it.
Well, thank God for Russell.
Yeah. Randall.
Oh, Randall. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Randall
Randy.
Burke. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I got it from. Yeah.
Yep.
Man,
up in Nashville.
That was stressful. Well, I mean, it worked out great. Because the issue was I had when I bought the car, the previous owner, Johnny, who actually is local to here, he had pieced together like a full 6-speed swap for that car. I mean, everything down to like the right-hand drive pedal like box.
Well, and those who don't know, Aiden and I talked about it obviously on the last episode, but those who don't know, it's a Japanese market, E36 coupe, M-Tech.
Yeah.
Automatic though. Yeah. That's why you had the manual swap.
Yeah. So it's a 95 E36. Imported from Japan a year ago. But it's clean, low mileage. I think it's got like 137,000 kilometers on it, or 36,000 kilometers. So
cut that in half almost.
Something? Yeah. So it's like a 80-ish thousand mile car, And I haven't done the math yet, so I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
I'm probably way off. But
No, it'd be 65, 70,000, 65,000 miles.
Yeah, that's even better than I thought.
Yeah, ish.
Yeah.
If it's got 130K kilometers
Yeah, it's like
on
it's
it.
130 or 120 something. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
it's 130 something, but it's
Yeah.
not more than that. But anyway, it's clean. It's a clean example.
Yeah,
And,
oh yeah, very clean.
Like
now,
the
especially now
exterior-
that Aiden's done with the thing.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, massive difference. I mean, like it looked fine before. It looked like it needed. I hadn't washed it yet,
Yeah.
and it had like stuff all over it, but and a thick layer of dust. But yeah, like it's together. Like it hasn't been torn apart a bunch. And whenever I was putting I put like Recaro SR3s in it and an RD in it, and when I was installing the coilovers, in the rear, you have to essentially disassemble the entire like trunk
Right.
just to get to the shock towers.
Yeah.
And I mean, literally, like everything was out of the trunk, and like the back seats were folded down, and I was pulling apart the shelf for like the what's that called again? That back shelf, that like parcel.
The parcel shelf?
Yeah, the parcel
Yeah,
shelf.
yeah.
Yeah, I figured it out.
You were getting there.
I was getting there. But I was like trying to take that apart to get the speakers out of the way because nothing had been like messed with. And that's the first car I've ever had that wasn't, I mean, like I've only ever bought like stock cars and then done stuff myself, except
Right.
for, excuse me. I bought a Mark IV Jetta in like 2012 or something, 13, from my buddy Scuba Simon. And man, I haven't seen him in a long time. I need to hit him up. I want to give him a shout.
Yeah.
But
Scuba Simon?
Yeah, Simon. What's Simon's last name?
Scuba.
Yeah. Well, I guess Simon's his last name.
Yeah.
But anyway,
It is now.
yeah. But I bought a car from him, and it was like bagged, and it was just like a Jetta with like air ride on it, and
Yeah.
it was a VR6, little 5-speed like fun car. But that was the only car I've ever bought that was been modified.
Right.
And even whenever I got it, I was like, "Well, this is somebody else's car."
Right.
And I immediately like changed the wheels, like ripped all the air ride out and redid everything because I didn't like his trunk set up, and I like replaced a bunch of the lines because the night that I bought it, like he had to like cobble together a line that like burned on the exhaust. Like I had to drive it home.
Yeah.
We were like 3 hours away from my house. But anyway, I'm going down a rabbit hole with that thing. But I like redid the whole car in the first week of having
Well, and the car coming from Japan, you lucked out there because most cars that come from Japan have like maybe not in a modification sense,
Yeah.
but have just been like haphazardly repaired.
Yeah.
Like in like terrible ways. Like my Century was bone stock, but they had like aftermarket electronics that had been wired in there or
Yeah.
things that had been fixed. All sorts of interior pins and
Yeah.
clips and all that stuff was broke. Like everything was broke, and it was as if they were flat rate and they were getting done as fast as they could, and they just broke everything.
crank it out,
Yeah.
yeah.
There was a power line. There was like a 6-gauge power line coming out of the engine bay from the battery that went over the rain tray, under the fender, through the door jamb into the door.
Yeah.
They didn't go through the firewall. It's like when you open the driver's door, you could see this line that came over the top of the inner fender through the door jamb, and it was like, really?
Yeah.
Couldn't have found a hole like that that already had a grommet with a wiring harness going through it. But yeah, so you lucked out with the E36 in that, right? That it hadn't been like, you would have known.
Oh, yeah.
Like even if speakers had been wired in,
Yeah.
it would have been just like,
I mean, it was
a mayhem.
bone stock. Like it has like a head unit, like a cheap head unit,
Yeah.
but like all the speakers have been like untouched. Like,
That's great. That's
like
great.
it's like the seats had never been like the passenger seats had never been sat in.
Yeah.
Or not the passenger seats, but not the rear.
The back seats,
the
right.
back seats like had never been sat in. Like everything was fine
Yeah.
and not dirty.
It's a clean car.
Yeah.
Super clean.
I mean, I got a great deal on it, but like, and it wasn't, it's just like, to me, like I feel like E36s are a dime a dozen, but like it was kind of cool finding one that's
Right.
that's a little unique.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I've always liked E36s.
It's right in my wheelhouse. Like that, like I like E36s, but I never really been too interested in buying one unless it was just going to be for like daily duty for like a project. But something like that is what excites me about stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've liked E36s for years and years and years, but I didn't like them enough to like go out of my way to find, because I don't know. I mean, I feel like everyone I see, if it's not an M3, it's like they're all kind of similar,
right?
And I'm discrediting it. I mean, I have a lot of friends,
but
who
there's a
build,
lot,
like,
there's
crazy
a lot of them.
Cool ones, but
right,
it's just
exactly
not,
likewise.
We're in that generation of like the 90s and early 2000s cars were just booming when, you know, in like the early 2010s and
Right.
like our, I don't want to say prime because we're still doing this stuff, but I just
Right.
mean like you know, the heyday of like
I was gonna say the heyday.
yeah, the heyday, you know.
Our
yeah, in
heyday.
quote. We're doing quote for people listening.
Our
Uh,
heyday.
yeah, our heyday. You know, that like '09 to like 2013.
Yep.
Like those were glory years.
They were formative years for me in my like modification days. It's like when I
yeah.
first started like welding stuff
Yeah.
for cars, like not bolt in. I think 2010 was the first year for that. That's when I did my Volkswagen. And
Yeah.
that was like the first car. I'd been around that stuff my whole life in my dad's garage, but yeah, that was like the beginning of like my like, okay, I can buy that car that has no off the shelf components because I feel comfortable enough like building something for it. So for
Yeah.
me, those same years kind of correlate in the same, or they resonate in the same way for me, because it's like that. What I think of as my heyday for cars was like
Yeah.
the leap of faith into like the unknown for like modifying cars that didn't have bolt-in kits or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, those are the glory days for me too.
Yeah. I mean, those are. I mean, my friends and I, we still go to shows all the time, but like back then, I mean, we'd stack up 20, 30 people in a
Yep.
couple of hotel rooms, and we went everywhere.
Yep.
And we stayed for a long time.
Yep.
You know, we'd there'd be maybe a show just on Saturday, but we were there like Thursday morning to like Sunday night.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And like making an experience out of every single one, even if the shows are like low tier or whatever.
Right.
We were just still just having so much fun together as a group.
Man, I went to every show, period.
Yeah.
Like in New England. There was like there was a different show in a different state in New England every single weekend. And I used to just weekend warrior it. Like
Yeah.
Connecticut one weekend, Vermont the next, Maine the one after that, New York the one after that, Massachusetts, then maybe one in Providence, Rhode Island. We were just all over the place.
Yeah.
Then after a while I was like, all right, I'm gonna go to like the best one of these.
Well, you figure out the ones that you want to go to.
Right.
You got to like check them all off your list, and then you're also kind of figuring out like what direction am I taking in the car scene or what, you know,
Right.
And that.
And
But those are
sometimes
my
it's
times, yeah.
sometimes it's natural too. You
Yeah.
know, like whether or not it's the car you have at the time or the friends that you have surrounding you. Where
Yeah.
You're like, no, we're gonna curate what we have in the shop or in the garage for this upcoming show, like next month.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the same way with music for me, probably for you too. Used to go to every single show that like came through my area, not because it was like a, you know how this is like
Like
not,
a certain genre.
right. Like not to go see like this big touring band. It's, oh, my buddy's band's playing with this band in that state. I'm gonna go see them.
Oh,
and then,
yeah.
And like just kind of like driving all over creation.
Yeah.
Because you knew somebody in a band playing in a certain venue.
I would say 90% of the like shows and concerts, talking about music, that I went to were only like local band shows.
Same, likewise. Yeah,
I mean,
likewise.
going to like watching like big bands and touring bands is
Never.
like, so cool, but like I
Right.
never did it.
Yeah,
So I mean, being in Tennessee and Georgia and stuff, like we also just they didn't come here.
Yeah.
So we didn't have the option to like go wherever. But like when like The Unseen and A Global Threat and like Sex Pistols and some other like big bands that, you know, like everybody had heard of, like in the punk scene at least, like when they would come through somewhere, maybe Atlanta once every 5 years, everybody would go.
Yeah.
But like every single weekend, it's just some like local like back bar room, whatever. Like everything smells like cigarettes but it's so much fun.
Yeah.
It's just like a great time. I still love that. I'd rather go to shows like that. than,
Exactly.
like, big concerts.
Yeah. I can count on one or maybe only two hands the amount of like big shows. Like 2001. It was probably 2001, maybe 2002. Like I saw Taking Back Sunday in the starting line at the Palladium in Worcester, Mass. And that was, I think it was 01 because it was when Tell All Your Friends had just come out. Taking Back Sunday's like debut record.
Did I say Sex Pistols earlier?
Yes.
I meant Cheap Sex. Mike Virus from The Virus. Sorry, I think I'm tired. I said Sex Pistols.
When you
earlier.
said Sex Pistols, I'm just going along with it.
Cheap Sex, that band. Mike Virus from The Virus. They actually still, I think The Virus still plays shows, but Mike's not in the band anymore. But I just wanted to clear that up. I didn't see the Sex Pistols earlier.
When you said Sex Pistols, I'm thinking, Weird flex, but okay.
No, yeah, that's not a thing.
I didn't think that was your deal.
That's not real. Yeah, I'm glad I caught myself on that one.
I let you just roll with it.
Oh man, I would have watched this and
The Sex
and I
Pistols,
would have been
what?
like, "What, you idiot!"
Making your own comment. On your
I
own
would turn this off. I'd unsubscribe to your channel.
Yeah. Glad you caught it.
Yeah, man. I hope they didn't. All right. Hopefully, if you heard that, you're still here.
Yeah. No.
Okay. Sorry, I totally interrupted
But
you.
but I could tell that's what sparked the your relapse on that, because we were talking about like seeing big bands. And
Yeah,
like, wait,
big.
Sex Pistols.
Oh, that's way too big. Yeah.
I figured you meant Sex Pistols. I was like, well, that's kind of weird. But,
Oh, yeah, that is weird.
for you at least, because I know what you listen to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was what turned out to be like an incredible show to be at. Because for me, we'd heard of Taking Back Sunday, but only in that year, because I think Victory Records put that record out. I think they were on Victory when Tell All Your Friends came out. But it was before Taking Back Sunday became like just as big as Thursday. They became like a staple, like pioneers of that type of music genre, basically. And but there's only a few shows like that I went to, and it wasn't because I was a mega fan of these bands. I think the girl I was dating in high school wanted to see the Starting Line or something like that. That's the only reason why I was at that show. But yeah, everything else was all just local bands. I'd hear of other big bands because somebody I knew was opening for them or something like that. Yeah. And that was, man, I look back on I know you and I talk about music all the time in that light, where it's like, man, those are definitely glory days. I still talk to a handful of friends that I used to play music with from back home, and everybody's dispersed now. My friend Taylor Parnell, I don't know if he listens to this. If he's listening, huge shout out to Taylor Parnell. Him and I played music for a very short window of time. We had two different projects. He had a band called Call Her Alaska, and then I had How Near, How Far, which turned into How Lost We Are, and indie rock style bands. But we'd always played shows together for years, and then it wasn't until like I did guest vocals on a Call Her Alaska song, and all of a sudden, like, we were very similar in like music style. All of a sudden this light bulb went off, and we were like, what do we do? Why don't we write music together? And I'd say for about a year we had the same practice space. He was in a band that I started called Galleries, and that never got off the ground, unfortunately, but we wrote for about a year. We wrote like a full record, and it was like Moving Mountains meets Explosions in the Sky meets like Lydia.
I've heard of Lydia.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah, like open, like very vast indie rock, like vast sounding. Like
I've heard some Explosions in the Sky songs.
You totally have. Yeah, you totally have.
There's no like lyrics. It's
right,
just
it's instrumental, but it's like that dark, like very emotional music. Like I don't know how to describe it. I don't want to say crescendoing, but it's like, these like builds.
Intricate.
Like,
yeah. I mean, long, like, drawn out songs.
I mean, my second How Lost We Are song, album, which was just me, it was just a solo project. The first How Lost We Are record is like an acoustic record. The second one, and these are on Spotify and iTunes, by the way. So search How Lost We Are if you want to hear this stuff. The second record was more like Moving Mountains, which was basically like Explosions in the Sky, but with a singer, with a very unique voice, very low baritone, not really baritone, but like a low register voice, very unimpressing with any other type of music, but fit perfectly for what they did. So it's basically like Explosions in the Sky, but with vocals and long tracks. So my second How Lost We Are record were like 6 and 7 minute long songs, because it's all, it would come back down, then it would build back up, come back down, and you went on this like emotional roller coaster in the songs. I look back on my vocals and like the song structure lyrically, and I'm like, kind of cringy. That was 2008.
But at the time,
that was 2008,
and that was probably ahead of its time then too.
Maybe I'd like to think so,
or a good example of that current time.
I mean, I'd like to think so, because in 2008, the stuff I was writing and the stuff that I would daydream constantly about writing, I would hear, like, when I heard Moving Mountains for the first time in 2008, it was their second record called Forward, like a book forward, Forew. When I heard that record, it was the same tuning, the same song structuring and composition as I was writing for How Lost We Are. And I couldn't believe that there was finally a band that was like already doing on a professional scale what I had been like dreaming up on my notepads, basically, or in my head. And so, not that it was ahead of the time, but it was I was on that wavelength. It was what I really wanted to write. And so Taylor and I started writing that stuff together. And Taylor's a phenomenal musician, first of all, incredible songwriter. The way he can structure a song and the tunings he'll play in are like blow my mind. And I think his music Instagram is Taylor Andrew Parnell, and he does like some Elliott Smith covers and a Cursive cover, acoustic, that are just mind blowing. So when we wrote together for like a year, like we would have chills the whole night in the studio, like writing music, and we barely even pre-pro'd anything. And then the band disbanded. It was a pretty rough like disbanding. We had a bass player that like kind of came in late and, in my opinion, kind of disrupted the characteristics of the band. And I was still riding BMX professionally, so I bailed out and moved to Florida. I'm like, I'm done. Like it was like an emotional wreck for me.
Yeah.
Because I had a lot invested in this band, and Taylor ended up getting married and moving to California. So now it's like we almost feel robbed of that. And him and I talk about that all the time still. And with the technology we have today, we still talk about like trying to do something remote. You know, I mean, once I moved here, you were kind of the same. You were like, hey man, we should start playing music.
I mean, I'm still there. I was talking to my buddy Tyler today. And because he was like, hey, can we jam this weekend? I got to reply to him.
Do you guys have a space set up yet, by the way? Because I know Scud was trying to set up like a studio space in his shop.
And it is set up.
It is.
He had, well, you couldn't put a band in there, but you could you could have like 5 or 6 people standing in there. And like
you could
one
like
person
record one
in there.
instrument. Yeah.
You one at a time. Yeah. But
because I know that was like when you and I talked about that last, that's kind of where it was at. It's like, oh, Scud's kind of putting together a jam space.
Yeah, it's the scheduling thing. I mean, I was busy with Riverside, really, is what kind of slowed that down.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm still like, we were writing. He still is currently writing music, but we were like, we had 4 of us looking for like a 5th or even a 6th like person.
Yeah.
But we're like playing music again. I mean, it was at Tyler's dad's, which is so much fun. I had a blast doing this, but at Tyler's dad's house in his basement that we practiced, we used that as a practice space when we were like
years ago.
Yeah, 16, 17 years old.
Is this in Dalton?
In Dalton.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because all of them live in Dalton and like Murray County. So like between me and Chattanooga and them spread out a little bit, the center spot was Dalton still.
Yeah.
And it just so happened to work out that Tyler's dad still lives there, and he's like the coolest guy ever.
Yeah.
And he's like, we walked in that basement and I was like, this hasn't changed.
That's amazing.
Since I was a teenager.
That's amazing.
It was so much fun. And we all just had such a great time. Like,
it helps with the music process too when you're in an environment like that.
Yeah.
For sure.
I loved it, man. It was great. It kind of fizzled, like that group of people fizzled, just because like one of the guys, Brandon, he's an incredible musician. I mean, he's like I don't know. I'm not going to say prodigy because that's like the word everybody goes for.
I'd use that word for Taylor, so I know the type.
Yeah,
you know?
but like that, anything he touched, and he was excellent at it, and he was at every instrument that he touched. But he and I played in almost all of the bands that I played in as a kid. Like I think he was in all of them because I wanted to play like with the best local beat, like the best musicians.
Exactly.
Locally. And we played punk rock, and mostly like hardcore punk rock. So like it was punk rock, but heavy. And but the most fun band I ever played in was with Brandon, and it was just like still punk rock, but it was more like fun rock and roll, like I don't know how to explain it without listing off band names that only a few people would even know.
People are always like, I feel like I get more comments on the podcast when we start talking about music. Like when Corey and I would start talking about music, people are like, do music podcasts. So
yeah, I hope you're not here to talk about cars, because we're not talking about cars.
when you first got here, I was still setting up like the new-ish. Basically, like with Aiden, it was like one sign.
Yeah,
it's going to be an ever evolving thing. I'm trying to get more set up for anyone who listens or watches on YouTube. But when you first got here, that's the first thing I said. I'm like, I took no notes. I don't have any structure about what we're going to talk about. And you're like, I kind of hope we talk about music.
Yeah, I mean, let's just talk about music.
Yeah,
I mean, I've already like branched off of that topic 5 different ways, but like.
But the type of music you guys are playing.
So much fun.
What's the bands? Someone might be like, yeah, I love that.
Okay.
Because that might be out of my wheelhouse. I listen to a lot of hardcore. I listen to not so much punk, but some punk hardcore. I mean, you and I have already talked about this.
Yeah.
A little bit more. Like, you know, Refused is one of my favorite bands. They
Yeah.
were like post-punk hardcore.
Yeah.
You know, like,
and they were even more like,
but they're like outside the realm
Yeah.
of the music that you were listening to. But like that's
Yeah.
the orbit around that band is stuff that I liked and that I
Yeah.
listened to.
which I just didn't. I think, I mean, you know, you're a product of your environment, so
Right,
like,
for sure.
So like the local scene there, which we had an incredible music scene, especially like punk scene and hardcore scene,
Yeah.
or like metal scene or whatever they called themselves back then. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so weird how that changes.
Yeah, they were
Yeah.
like just emo kids, and then they were into metal, and I thought metal was not that, and then
Yeah.
and then they're like, it's hardcore, and then I was like, that's not hardcore. Hardcore is hardcore.
And it's weird growing up near Boston.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, I couldn't imagine,
I'd be
yeah.
like, oh yeah, I saw this hardcore band, and I'd say who it was, and like friends from like
Yeah.
Boston were like, that isn't hardcore.
Yeah,
You know, it's like that's not
so
Black
it's
My
like,
Heart.
Yeah, it's like it's Black Flag, like
Yeah. Yeah.
or like Minor Threat. I'm trying to use like names that everybody would
Exactly.
recognize. Like it's hardcore, and
Yeah.
they're like, no, it's hard, and it's like, that's not.
It's weird.
This has 30 years of growth. Whatever you're saying came out last weekend. So
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
that's cool that you want to use that term, but it's just know that it's not.
Yeah.
And we can live in the same space, but
Right.
but anyway, like the scene was thriving here, and it was so much fun. And I mean, you know, like whatever, 2006, 2007, 2008, like those were like the times that, I mean, and even earlier than that, like really 04 to 08 would be, you know, if you're in the punk scene or you're in the hardcore scene, like you live and breathe that, like that's your life.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's everything, every thought you have, every like piece of clothing you wear, that is who you are. I mean, you're a teenager, so like that's what we
Right.
do.
Yeah.
We get consumed by whatever it is we're into.
Yep.
But I always made it a point to hang out with like hardcore kids too, and like go to hardcore shows and metal shows or whatever. And we had like a pretty good local venue in Eastridge called the Warehouse, and I went to a bunch of shows there because they didn't have any punk shows. It was just like hardcore stuff.
Yep.
And it was really like a lot of like Christian hardcore stuff, which that's just never been my scene.
That was my first exposure to like heavy music.
Yeah.
Was Christian hardcore.
I feel like a lot of people like our age and
Yeah, late 90s for me. It was
Yeah.
it was Zayo, Living Sacrifice,
yeah.
stuff like that. 6 Feet Deep. Those
Yeah.
are all bands that like first I'd never heard anybody yell to music before.
Yeah. Well, that was my, like, you know, I mean, when I was in, I think like 7th and 8th grade, like me and a few of my buddies, we were trying to figure out like what we were into, you know?
Yep.
That was, you know, those first days were, I mean, Zayo, Atreyu, Under Oath.
Yep. Early Under Oath.
Yeah, early Under Oath.
Yeah,
What's that first one that like went out that was like real big that everybody still knows about?
Everybody's yelling right now. It's
The one before that.
Yes.
The like
no, hold on.
mixtape one.
I've got it. Yes. Oh my gosh.
I don't know, man.
Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue because I've got it.
Corey's listening to this right
Yeah,
now, and he's
he
like,
is.
"It's this, you idiot."
Oh man.
He's like, I've got it tattooed on my neck somewhere.
It was the one before They're Only Chasing Safety.
Yeah, before that.
Yes. Oh man, that's gonna really bother me.
Well, we were listening to those bands,
Yes.
and even going into more like punk rock stuff too. Like for me, like, I mean, Comeback Kid is then still was.
See, I loved Comeback Kid. Loved
Comeback Kid is a top 5 band for me.
You and I
even
had that
today.
conversation. Yeah,
Even
we've
today.
blasted it in the car.
Oh,
plenty of
dude, I
times.
love Comeback, and even their new stuff coming out.
Yes.
Like they're putting out like a new album, like right now.
Really?
And it's like I think the 1 or 2 songs they've already released off of it are great.
Yep.
They're
Yep.
great.
That's awesome.
And
I haven't heard
it's
the most
so
recent
cool.
stuff, but
Yeah.
in recent years, I've still heard some of the
Yeah.
newer stuff, and it's great.
Yeah, but like AFI,
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of moving into more like punk rock stuff. But like you know, Global Threat, Virus, Career Soldiers, all those guys and that's whenever I kind of turned into more. I was like, oh, I think I like this like street punk kind of like
Yep.
kind of heavier punk rock stuff, and I went that way. And my buddies at the time, they really got into like 77 punk rock, like rock and roll punk rock, and And then we all started high school, and I actually moved across town to like the north end of town, and they lived in the south end of town. And I didn't have any friends there. Like I knew one person, like my first day of high school, and I'm walking in with like skin tight jeans, like leather jacket with like studs and patches on it, and like this was me from like 14 to 25,
right?
You know what I mean? Like this is what I looked like, bullet belts, like the whole nine, and like patches on everything. And
I've seen the photos.
Oh yeah, I mean that was a long time, and I walk into a high school in North Georgia in the mountains.
Acts of depression.
I don't know.
It finally came to me.
That's what it is. Yeah.
The whole time you're talking, I'm glazed over going, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I'm like, what? Acts of Depression.
Yeah.
The first Under Oath record that I heard as well.
Because that was before Aaron Gillespie.
It was before. Okay, so when I said they're only chasing safety, the actual record that I like got infatuated with Under Oath for was the just Changing of Times. So that was the last record that Dallas was the singer on.
Yeah.
So the Changing of Times was, I can't remember the name of the song, but the first track was like that. I thought you'd come back. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm about to pull it up.
And well, so it was Acts of there may have been like an EP or LP like
it was like,
but it was Acts of Depression, the Changing of Times.
Yeah.
Then Dallas left, and then Aaron Gillespie became more of like a singer.
Yeah.
With They're Only Chasing Safety, and I think like Spencer or whatever the guy's another front man came on.
Yeah.
And then from there, as far as I'm concerned, it was just like when Norma Jean switched, where it was like, okay, that was one band. Now this is another band. Like you have to change your name. But I didn't mean to interrupt you what you're saying.
No,
it came to me. Acts of Depression.
I've done that like two times.
You know what I was doing in my head? What I was doing in my head was I was scrolling through my first iPod.
Yeah, I see your thumb movement
iPod.
there.
Yeah, like
this is what we had to do.
And I'm talking,
kids.
It was the iPod with the menu and track buttons above it. Like you couldn't click on the scroll bar.
Yeah,
it was the first gen, and I was scrolling through that, and I remember going down like U Under Oath, and I'm clicking on it, and I'm like, what was the first one? Because I knew it started with an A, and I'm like, okay, we're there. That funny. Makes me feel so much better.
But yeah, those were those like first ones. Like I was trying to figure out what I was like, what direction I was taking.
Yeah.
With my musical career or whatever.
Yep.
And as a teenager.
Yep.
But I went to a different school, and my buddies, they really kind of took off with that like 77 punk rock kind of stuff, and then I took off with like hardcore punk and like street punk stuff, and then I had a couple buddies, or I met a couple of friends or whatever that kind of stayed that same direction, and we had all started bands, and we played in bands together, and there was really like, I mean, the scene was big, but there were really only about 15 of us that like played music.
Yeah.
So all of us just played in each other's bands until later on, like in college and stuff, we kind of all figured out what we were doing. But by then, I mean, we had like bands that, had been like signed and toured, and nothing like big, but like for like a logo band, it's huge.
Right.
These are just like 18-year-olds that are getting paid in beer to play somewhere in like Virginia and sleep on someone's couch. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's what we did. And that was so much fun. I miss doing that.
Yeah,
but I could definitely not do that again.
That's the thing. I mean, and I talk about that with my friends a lot, that I used to do that with, where, 4 or 5 of you, including a merch kid, got in a van, even in New England, if it was like a Thursday through Saturday night, like tour, like Wednesday to Saturday night, so you do like 4 shows. Even if you were doing like Boston, Portland, back to like Concord, New Hampshire to play like the, anyway, I was going to drop like an old venue, or Nashua at Drifters. Anyone who's listening remembers Drifters. That was like where all the hardcore bands played. And then over to like Vermont or something, you felt like, boy, I hope we sell enough t-shirts in Portland so we have enough money to like make it to Vermont, or whatever.
Yeah,
and so now when I think about it now, I'm like, oh, I'm financially stable enough to where I could do this, but I wouldn't make any money doing it. So it's not financially viable to even do this. No. So it's this weird catch-22 thing where, the world better now. We know the cars better now. We know the van better now. Like when we'd get in the van, like I'd ask, like, anyone check the oil? And it was like, well, how do you do that? And I'm like, So whenever I see these bands broke down on the side of the road with like a trailer flat and like everybody standing around like staring at it, it's like, like so much more about that stuff now. Where it's like I'd be ready to prep a van, prep a trailer, and hit the road for like a full lower 48 tour and be totally confident in the rig and our finances.
Yeah. And if worst case happened, something happened, you would know what to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yes, these 18-year-old kids, maybe even older kids that know nothing about cars, like head out without even checking the oil. They put as long as the gas gauge says F, we're hitting the road and we're going.
Yeah.
So I think about that a lot too, where I'm like, man, the way my life's gone, it's been chapters by decades. Like I did a whole mixture in high school and right outside of high school as far as music and BMX and cars, and I loved all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then the 20s were like BMX focused. BMX and music. But BMX was like, that became my job. And it's like, all right, I'm all in on this with music on the side. Music and BMX. Then my 30s became, because I'm 37 now, so I'm approaching 40. Then the 30s became like automotive solely. I'm like, BMX is going to kill me. I've been doing as much as I can with the automotive. And this podcast is included in that venture. And I keep saying jokingly to like some of my old friends who played music was that my 40s, I'm like, I feel like I'm going to like go all in on music. Like it's going to be like BMX in the 20s, automotive in my 30s. I'm going to go all in on music in my 40s. But then I think like if everything I'm building now with the automotive stuff is like actually starting to like pay the bills, like I need to stay in that lane. But if we start a band and we can
I want to do it, man.
I do too.
I'd like to play. And then the goal, so this is the thing with Tyler, like this project we've been working on for the past, like honestly, well over a year now, probably close to 2 years. Like he's an incredible songwriter. And when we had the four of us that were, kind of playing around, like we were just kind of figuring out what it was that we were playing. I mean, it's like almost, I can't even like describe the music yet, but like, but we're just figuring it out and having a lot of fun with it. But the goal from all of us was to just like, let's just like write enough songs that we can play like in this room and it be tight and on point and fun and executed well. And then like, that's cool. And if we want to, or if we have time, let's, cause two of us are dads. And so like, then, and we all live in like different kind of parts of around here, like within an hour or so of each other, but like
makes it harder.
It's not down the street like it used to be.
You're not all roommates.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. And I was like, then we can, let's play like a couple of like local like Chattanooga shows or something. Cause there's like, I still go to some local shows here.
Yep.
But there's like fun events around here. And just like that would be, I just want to check that off the list. Cause like when we stopped playing music in like my mid-20s or whatever, I didn't realize like, okay, this is the last time.
Same.
Like, I had
Likewise.
no idea.
Yep.
We were just like, everybody just moved away real fast.
Yep.
Like far away, like you were saying.
And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
didn't realize it.
Yeah. The last show I played was, I think it was February 9th, 2009. It was February of 2009.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It was February 9th. I think I remember February 9th or 10th, 2009. And it was with a band called Bayside and a guy,
isn't that like a big band?
Bayside's a big band.
Okay.
Yeah. But I didn't know if you'd know it. But
I've heard of them.
It was a show with Bayside and I Am the Avalanche, which was the movie Life before I Am the Avalanche. I can't remember his name. It was an acoustic show though, because I was playing as How Lost We Are, just acoustic. I was playing acoustic shows because I was just a solo project. The music I was recording was more full band stuff because I had the elements in my studio. But when I played out, it was all acoustic stuff. But I can't remember his name. Vinny. So it was Anthony from Bayside and it was Vinny from the movie Life. But at the time he had a band called I Am the Avalanche. You'd like it. It was like more up, like faster tempo stuff. But regardless, it was a big show for me because I had listened to I Am the Avalanche and certainly Bayside for years before that. But for all I knew, this was the pinnacle. This is like the peak of like, I'd never played a show like this before. Taylor even helped sing a few songs with me in my set. There's actually, I think, some clips on YouTube somewhere of that set. I played completely unplugged, no mics, no nothing. It was like this tight room, like 300 kids crammed in this like tiny little space. Obviously all there to see Vinny and Anthony. But after that, that's when the band kind of disbanded and I went off to Florida. I moved to Florida in like March, I think, the next month. Played a couple open mics in the UCF area of Orlando because there was a bunch of coffee shops down there. Played a couple acoustic sets, met some people, thought maybe music would kind of pick up from there. And then, it was like the last show I ever played. 2009. Yeah. So when I think about it now, we're 2022. like, holy cow.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
23 years since I played a show. Holy goodness.
Yeah. It's been a long time for me, but not that long.
Yeah, I think you were playing up beyond that.
Yeah, I think I really stopped because I think where I was getting at earlier, like I played heavier stuff and then they played other stuff. And this was like high school. And we really took off after high school and played all the time. I mean, every weekend somewhere, even if it's just like house shows. I mean, the most fun shows we played were house shows or that were like after shows.
Yeah, VFW halls and like regions. And,
I mean, just like cram 150 kids in like one small room.
Yes. Yeah, the best.
And those are the most fun.
Yep. This episode is brought to you by Wheel Price, a wheel classifieds app designed by automotive enthusiasts. Wheel Price is the most convenient way to buy, sell, and trade your wheels. They make it real easy to search for the wheels that you're looking for through brand, model, diameter, PCD, and overall specs. You can communicate with sellers right from inside the app, as well as purchase wheels from inside the app. This app is free. Wheel Price is free. There's a link in the video's description and the podcast description for iOS and Android devices. Download it right to your device and get listing your wheels today. The years are easy for me because I associate them to the car I had during that year.
Yeah, I mean, I was into
those
cars
years?
too. I had my first GTI, my first Mark IV. So that would have been like, man, 2000. How old am I now? 32? Oh, God.
Oh, stop.
I'm about to turn 33, though. I'm catching up with you, bro.
I just turned 37 a couple weeks ago.
That's exciting.
So for what it's worth, I'm catching up on the gray chin department.
Oh, man. It's going to take you a while to catch up with me.
I am growing my mustache out for Helen, though.
Your facial hair doesn't grow fast enough. But you shave your face, though.
I shave all the time. I shaved like 2 days ago, but I didn't shave the mustache yet. So I think between now and Helen, Aiden off camera was actually really, he's like, bro, like you need to bring your stash back. Because every time I shave it, he like gets sad because he's like a 14-year-old with a mustache. He's 23 for those who don't know.
Yeah, but he's been growing that mustache his whole life.
But I decided, I thought about it the other day. I'm like, yeah, I think we got like 5 weeks. I think I can do it. I think I can get this going. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, so you're 32. I attribute the years.
I was like 25, 26.
Your last, yeah.
I wasn't 26 because I met Carly when I was 26.
Well, see that those
I was
are
like
the things
24,
that,
25, yeah.
Yeah, those are the things that like I think about. Like I didn't have like special cars until like 2008, but 2003 is the year I graduated high school. 2004 was like my first year out of high school, so I was like out into the world, and all I focused on was BMX. 2005 was my first pro sponsorship. Then 2006 and 2007 are kind of clumped in as like the BMX days. So I remember what bike I had, like what color and what bikes I had. 2007 is when I got sponsored by the company that I had my signature frame with. 2008 was my Mark II GLI. 2009 was my Mark II GTI. 2010 is the Volkswagen. 11 is the E30 and the first Mercedes, and so on and so on. So it's kind of easy for me to like revert back to a year. And someone's like, when did that happen? I'm like, that was early 2008.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like, I mean, really 2010 was that biggest like change year. Because that was, I mean, I was, I guess 20 or 21 in 2010. Yeah, I was 21 because I was born in 89. I guess part of 2010, I was 21. But that was like either our first or a second solo. And I'd already been to like a bunch of car shows and stuff, and I already had the GTI, the Mark IV.
Yep.
But like that was like the definitive, like, okay, I know that I'm dedicating more of myself to away from music and going towards vehicles. Because I mean, like you lived and breathed music. Like that's all I did.
Yep.
All of my friends, everywhere I went, all of my hobbies was like music. I mean, I was into cars, but like I was going to car shows, I was hanging out with car buddies, but like I was playing music and like still playing live regularly. And yeah, 2010. I think it was solo that year. I was like, yeah, this is my turning point.
Yeah,
and I was like, I want to build like cool cars, and so that 2010 to like 2013 year range, or 2009, 2013, whatever, that was like, I think I'm still like mentally there. because all the styling and stuff that I do now. I mean, the years since then, that experience and that the like taste changes or whatever, like I obviously implement on the vehicles that I put together, but like the styling that I go for was popular then, and I put my own twist on it. But like that was, you know, I mean, because cruising through like Helen, 2011, 2012. I mean, every vehicle you saw was cool. Everything was like simple, shaved, clean, like not overdone or overbuilt or just like exaggerated camber or anything like trendy. Like it was well executed, clean vehicles.
Yeah.
And a lot of them with a ton of work and money, but also like a lot that didn't really have a ton of work and money, but they were just thought out well.
Yeah.
And that set in with me. So I think that was like my first like big, I guess, mental change when it came to like the like car scene and styling and stuff. And I think about that. I imagine whenever I kind of like picture a car that I'm putting together or that I'm about to buy, like I think my first like thought is like, what's it going to be like when I'm cruising down like Edelweiss in Helen?
Yep.
Like how's that? How cool? How is that car going to look whenever I'm like just like slow driving through town like in Helen? Because we go back every year still.
Right. Yeah.
We're going back next month. But
I did that with Ocean City.
Yeah.
I always thought it because I went every year for like 11 years. I'm like, what is this project going to look like cruising the strip?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I love that.
But that comes from like us being musicians. Like it's all the same fiber, I think, because I used to lay in bed at night and visualize like what that song I was working on was going to sound like and where I was going with it. Like I could write the bridge in my head or the intro or whatever, and I would obsess over it. And so with the car stuff, it's the same way aesthetically and visually with the cars. Like if all goes to plan, I can already see that new project in Helen. I can see front quarter shot of that car coming down Edelweiss.
Yeah.
You know, with everyone on the sidewalks and stuff. Like I can see that in my head.
Yeah.
And being visual like that, I think like I almost feel sad for anyone who can't like compose like that mentally, daydream about stuff like that. Because I know some people just don't. I know people personally that just it's like it's in front of them and they focus on what's in front of them. And it's almost
hard,
like not that they don't daydream, but they're just not visionaries in that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the music transferred over into the car stuff, like as artists, you know, in a way. And actually, it's funny when we were at Bugapalooza on Sunday. There was a couple guys from Orlando, Florida. I totally forgot their names, but they follow me on Instagram, and the guy walked up with his hand out, and I went to shake his hand. No, I didn't know where this was going, and he goes, "Just wanted to shake the hand of an artist." And I was like, "No, you got the wrong guy." But it's funny that like other people see that too.
Yeah.
That like, in my opinion, it's like we're doing stuff to cars. Like, it's just fun. But
it's nice. I mean, it's nice when you're recognized for your dedication level.
Absolutely.
And it's not just like I have whatever followers on Instagram. That doesn't matter.
Right.
But when you're in the room with people, and you can, not to differentiate people or whatever, but like it's cool. Like when you're like, this person either has like a lot of experience or like builds high quality vehicles.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's not like an in crowd thing. It's not that. It's man, I don't know, just like being around like the artisans of like even just the car scene. You know, like when music was happening, like the most fun band or like your favorite local band, like you just wanted to be around them, like be friends with them and stuff like.
And the thing for me was when you're in a room, and I never got starstruck meeting the prolific subjects of the prolific people of the industry I was a part of. Like when I met Dave Mira for the first time, I was thinking like, wow, here's another able-bodied human being like me that's done so much on this bike. I mean, I played this video game, and you almost, for me, it's the same way if I'm in the same room with like-minded people in the automotive industry.
Yeah.
Like Riley Stair is a friend of mine, right?
Yeah.
Riley's Trans Am. I mean, for goodness sake, it's a Hot Wheels now.
Yeah.
And when I was out there, I was at his shop back a few months ago when I was out seeing Sutton. We swung by his shop, and I dropped him off some key rings just to say hi because we were in the area, and it was his new shop space. And so I'm standing in there, and we're just talking, and he's got his Trans Am up. He's getting it ready for SEMA. which was like the week later or something like that. And I remember thinking about that car and him putting it together and building it under the lean-to at his parents' house. And although we're friends and we both rode BMX, oddly enough, I'm thinking like what goes on? I'm thinking about the mechanics. I'm like, what goes on in his head to be able to to transpose from his head onto like a physical world and like build this stuff. And because he's learned the same stuff that I'm capable of learning and that you're capable of learning and that everyone's capable of learning this type of stuff. So rather than being like starstruck by somebody that you might be in the room with, I think about all these different like levels of talent and levels of dedication, more importantly than talent.
Yeah.
These people that have been dedicated to their craft, and I almost get like giddy about it because you almost like
motivational.
You almost feel like feel like you're in this room full of all-stars, and like I feel like I'm just like a fly on the wall, and I'm like, whoa, like Like when you're walking around SEMA, it's the same way. You're walking around SEMA and you see like Chip Foose walking around, and like he's got a TV show, and it might be cringy at sometimes, but like you think like, oh, that guy has all the tools I have, like, and it's just cool to kind of like lay it out in that respect where it's like a 2-dimensional scale where it's like, oh, like I can, with YouTube, I can learn everything now. Like,
it's not unattainable.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's,
it is motivational.
I think that we have that same viewpoint probably because of like our music days where even on a small scale, like you were the band at this show, local show, 25 kids are there, but you're the band.
Yep.
And it's not like you're the cool person. I'm not saying that. It's just that you're already you've manifested this reality of I'm doing something. And so it's easier to like rub shoulders with the other bands. And then when you translate that into like being in the car scene, it's like, well, you have the like there's the handful of the coolest cars there, and this vehicle kind of flows with these, and that's just motivational. Like it's just exciting. And in my mind, I'm sitting here like, this sounds like I'm just like separating like bad cars to good cars. Like that's not what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
No, I think it's coming through perfectly because when I'd be at a show, even if I was in the band, like a music show, and playing a set, like when I'd be in the crowd watching like a band play before us or something, and they'd have like this sound that was like how'd they get this sound? And you're looking at their gear, and you're looking at their guitars, and you're like, how do they sound like this? And you're like, I gotta, like, even if it's not that sound, you're like, I need something else. And it's in that sense, it's not separating good or bad stuff. It's just I don't know how to describe it.
I mean, you're removing that glass ceiling. You're like, right. You're like, I can better myself.
Right, exactly.
I can do more for myself.
In my own world, in my own bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking all these things I'm seeing outside.
I'm not afraid to like get outside of my comfort zone and like try new things or whatever, take influence from other people or other bands or other vehicles, whatever it may be. And I don't know.
It's all canvas. Yeah. Like music, automotive, styling, even BMX. It's all canvas. I mean, you're like, whether or not it's the music you're writing or the way you're modifying a vehicle, it's your canvas. And you are an artist in one way or another, in different levels, obviously. Because there's guys that are scratch building cars from nothing. Yeah, they're true artists.
Those are top tier.
Yeah, but it's kind of crazy how, we see extreme sports athletes morph into cars. I feel like the cars were there long before I got into BMX, but also music transforms into automotive as well. Always a lot of the people that we know in the automotive scene have come from a music or sports background.
Yeah. And I always liked that, being kind of on the fringe of society, whatever, like doing like the punk rock, like against the grain, thing anyway. So like, I mean, and that's ingrained into my vehicle styling and like, especially the trucks I have. I mean, I feel like my trucks are, and like the 4Runner for sure is just like it's cool.
Yep.
It's going to be built purposefully. Like there's a reason to everything that's done to it and being done to it, but like, it's not standard and it's not flashy, but it's just punk rock.
Yep.
Like that. I'm so pumped about it.
Exactly.
Like cruising, like driving around in it. Like I feel like I listen to like hardcore and stuff in that truck that more than I listen to anything else into it.
Yep.
But I still listen to a lot of the same bands I've always listened to, and I want to talk about this in a minute, but because we had a conversation about this, I can't go down that rabbit hole yet, but like I mean, my vehicles have like a personality, like all of them have their own personality, and like they all kind of earn their own like music genres, and not many of them like overlap each other, and I like that. It's fun, but that truck I'm excited about because I feel like, I don't know, 20-year-old me would be stoked on that truck.
Right.
Just be like, this thing is crazy. It's a first gen 4Runner, so it's already like cool old school 80s styling.
Right.
And then I put like 80s Recaros in it and like Epsilon, like Japanese wheels on it, but it's got like 35s and it's going through like a big solid axle coilover conversion swap and all this other stuff. So I'll be able to climb a house with the thing. But like it's just raw and fun. And if I lay it on its side, I lay it on its side. I mean, like I don't want to, but but it's going to get beat up.
Yeah.
But I don't want to just thrash it. Like I still want it to have style and still be fun and cool and like enjoyable.
Yeah.
And just kind of punchy, you know, like the exhaust is punchy and like I don't know. I'm just pumped about it. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
But
rabbit hole. I'm excited. I don't know where you're going.
Let's go with this rabbit hole. All right. So you and I went to Dalton one day to pick up trailer or something. I don't know. And we ate at Oakwood,
obviously,
and we talked about
music. Shout out Oakwood Cafe.
Yeah. This episode is not sponsored by them,
but also sponsored by Oakwood Cafe in Dalton, Georgia.
Yeah.
Get some.
But we were at Oakwood and we had like a very enjoyable conversation. I enjoyed it at least. But we talked about music the whole time, and I was like, do we need to record this conversation?
I remember saying that.
Yeah.
I said I should have had my little Zoom on the table just recording our conversation.
Yeah, they wouldn't have cared. They would have been
right.
Y'all need anything?
Yeah, exactly.
Fill your sweet tea up.
More corn casserole, please.
Yeah, for real. And but man, that was so much fun. But the topic that stuck out in my mind from that night the most, and I came to like a realization within myself, and it was really nice, was how I recognized that I had like, well, I mean, I think I already knew this, but like it was the first time like talking to somebody about it. But I had recognized like, because we were so young, we were only into any kind of certain music or whatever. And if you branched out of that at all, you were like less true to what you were into. And maybe that was just like a punk scene thing. I don't know. Like, because it was so big, like, you can't be a poser. That's not cool. Like, you gotta like live and breathe it, or you're not punk rock or whatever. And that's like toxic, super toxic.
Right.
And I never really liked that before, but like that molds people, because that makes it to where you're discriminating against like just new people to getting into it. Like, you haven't been here long enough, you don't deserve or whatever. And that's terrible. I hate that mentality, and I hate that mentality in the car scene and stuff. I mean, like, you show up to a car show and you're just like, wow, I never thought about this. This is amazing. Then like, that's awesome. I'm stoked for that. I'm not like, oh, you're dumb, you're going to make something like crappy. Like, your taste isn't tailored enough or whatever. Like, that's terrible. But anyway, so I kind of kept myself to one like genre. I mean, within like the punk rock and hardcore, like music stuff. But like, mentally, I didn't realize I was doing that to myself, but I was like, I kept myself on a leash. Like if I branch out of this, it's like, I'm going to be less like passionate about what I'm into.
Yeah. And
that was terrible. I was robbing myself of experience. But until probably like my mid-20s, when I was getting into more like post-hardcore and just other things, very much so outside of like heavy music.
Right.
And I'm so glad I did finally. But like and you introduced me to bands like all the time. I mean, some of my favorite bands now that I listen to now, you told me about them, and like within the last few years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm so pumped about that. But I was talking to Tyler about it too, after you and I had a conversation at Oakwood, and I was just like, cause he's very like into, Tyler has his own, I don't know, like realm, but he's been like such a musical person and like devoted to music in general that, I don't know, he's had his own style for so long and still does.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to make it sound like he's like stuck in ninth grade. I just mean like he he already transcended what we were doing then
Right.
anyway.
Yeah.
And he's still there, and he's still doing so much with it, and it's really inspirational and cool as a musician. But we were talking about it, and he's like, yeah, I'm mad at myself because I didn't there's so many great bands and stuff out there that we just didn't even give it a try. And talking about like metal kid hardcore stuff, like screamo thing. I don't know what they're called, but
Yeah.
but back then I just automatically discounted that because because that scene was like coming up, like I said earlier, when I was in like high school and stuff, and it was filled with like not great people early on,
Right.
and so I already had like a bias
That plays a
against
factor
it.
too.
Yeah, I discounted it from the get-go, and later on, whenever I actually like just try to give it a try, it's like, man, there's like incredible musicians. Like these bands are awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, the songs are great. Like the performances they put on are great. I need to like change my own like way of thinking, because that's not good for me to think that way. And, but I mean, I don't know. We were all teenagers. We all did dumb things and got set in the way to do whatever, you know?
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I went down that rabbit hole too I didn't play in a ton of bands. Most of the bands that I played in, I formulated in one way or another. And a few of them were acoustic projects that turned into like full band, like indie rock projects, you know, like a band that can start as an acoustic band, like just a one man, like acoustic band that could turn into like an indie rock band where you get like an edge, or, you know, like a distortion edge, you know, like with 3 guitars, layers, you know, stuff like that. But I did play in a couple like kind of heavy bands. I played in a band called The Breathing Method, and I forgot what they were called when I first.
Cool name.
Oh, so that is, if I remember correctly, a Get Up Kids. I think that's the Get Up Kids.
I mean, I've heard of them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're massive.
Yeah.
But like, I can't remember if there was a name of a Get Up Kids song.
Oh, it's a Get Up. Oh, okay.
But it wasn't a Get Up Kids record. I think it might have been a Get Up Kids song. I can't remember. It's been so long now. But they were called something else when I first joined. It was friends of mine, but they were like in like this. Wasn't like mega heavy, but it was like a hardcore band, and I joined, and we changed the name to The Breathing Method. And that I hadn't had more fun. I was like half a front man, like basically like deep, almost like inhale vocals, you know, like real heavy.
Oh yeah.
Like, and kind of monitored an old Roland JX3P synthesizer, which I think is the same synthesizer that James Cameron wrote Terminator 1 on. I think like the actual or Terminator 2, the actual soundtrack. Regardless, I hadn't had more fun. I love composing the music that I play, like the indie rock type stuff.
Yeah.
Open, atmospheric, like lots of space, ambient type stuff. Movie soundtrack style music. But playing in a hardcore band was so much fun. Yeah. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, foot on the monitor, like in the crowd yelling and stuff. Like, I mean, that was just like it was so much fun.
Jumping off of like
that helped me expand. I feel like from the get-go I had a love for all sorts of music.
Yeah.
I feel like that was somehow bred in me, and I don't know where that came from, but I feel like from the get-go, because I got like an early exposure to Rage Against the Machine, because they were kind of like mainstreamish. You didn't hear them on the radio.
They were on like VH1 back in the day.
Yes, yeah, or MTV, especially MTV2.
So they were out there.
They were mainstream in that
sense.
So like I got an exposure to Rage Against the Machine, and when I first started playing guitar in 7th grade, Tom Morello quickly became one of my favorite guitar players, because I just like that style, like like it was all octave, drop D. Every song had the same structure. Like it was all the same, from the self-titled record through Evil Empire to Battle Los Angeles. It was all like similar in the same 7 frets. You could play every single. I learned every single Rage Against the Machine song. To this day, I could probably go grab my guitar and play everything from Calm Like a Bomb to Bomb Track to Down Rodeo. Like I could probably play every song. But that being said, between that, I immediately got hooked on like American Football, which was like an indie rock band in the early 2000s. And shout out Mike Kinsella. He started a acoustic project after that called Owen. But between American Football,
I remember that.
Yeah.
So I had a at that time that like, I don't know, 2005, 2006, 2007, whatever. I had a friend who was really into, at that time, everybody here just called that like emo, like indie rock kind of. But I remember Owen.
Yep. So Owen is Mike Kinsella, and that's the guy that was the singer and guitar player in American Football.
Because my buddy played it, and I was like, man, this is good.
Yeah. You'd love American Football then. Because American Football was a full band version of Owen with crazy intricate timing signatures in like 2000. Like for an indie rock band, that was like insane. Like all of his timing signatures aren't just like a 4/4 or a 3/4. They were like, you could tell that those records weren't written or recorded with a click track, because it was just like it was really, really crazy. But that's where American Football originated, or that's where Owen originated. But I'd listen to everything from like American Football, Owen style stuff, through Rage Against the Machine, through some of my classmates were really into Built to Spill, and that's how I heard that. It was kind of like Modest Mouse, but like underground Modest Mouse, kind of like indie, that kind of indie rock stuff. But then had the exposure to Zao and 6 Feet Deep and Under Oath, like early Under Oath, that was like mega heavy.
Stretch Armstrong?
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes, dude.
Poison the Well?
Oh, dude, absolutely. Yeah. Dude, Tear from the Red.
Poison the Well was like top tier for me. Like when I like 8th grade.
Yep.
Like
Opposite of December is
this
like...
This is intense. I love this.
Opposite of December is one of my favorite records. Yeah. Tear from the Red is incredible. So, did I ever play As Cities Burn for you?
I've heard of As Cities Burn. Yeah.
As
Cities Burn. Yeah.
As Cities Burn, they're like a Christian hardcore band, but
weren't they all a Christian hardcore band back then?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe the Poison.
Because they were just all like Tooth and Nail.
They're all Tooth and Nail in Solid State.
Yeah.
Solid State. Dude,
like, we're Christians.
I bought every single Tooth and Nail and Solid State Records sampler
of course
ever. Because there was a music festival in New Hampshire called Soul Fest, and it was all Christian artists. So you had everyone from like Michael W. Smith to like Amy Grant. Remember Amy Grant? No. She was like a country singer for a while. The Paved Paradise, put up a parking lot. Anyway.
Keep singing.
Yeah.
I remember the song. It was like a top 40 song.
Yeah, she covered it and it became big. Or maybe she wrote it. I can't remember. But it had everything from like those soul artists. Like Michael W. Smith was the Garth Brooks of like Christian.
I don't know if I've heard,
You know who Garth Brooks is, right?
Yeah, but not Michael W. Smith.
I didn't expect you to. But it had like 4 stages, and it had a main stage that had all those guys playing, guys and girls. Then it had like a side stage where like bands called Zao and LUDWICK'S, LUTI-KRISS. Anyone who knows what I'm talking about is freaking out right now, because a band called LUDWICK'S turned into a band called Norma Jean.
Oh.
And I saw this band
that's cool.
As LUDWICK'S as a 3-piece, and the drummer was playing a drum set that looked like a little kid's junior set, and I had never seen stage presence like this in my life. Man. I mean, like by the time the set was over, everything was destroyed, and I'm like what? And I saw Zao before that. Yeah. I'd never seen or heard anything like this. I was like 15 years old, 14 maybe. I got a ride there with my best friend's parents and my best friend. And we heard all this noise coming from like the side stage. And like it was like snooze fest for us at the main stage. And we went over and I saw a band. You're not going to know any of these bands, but this is for everyone listening. I got introduced to a band called Stretch Armstrong, which you obviously know.
I've heard of them.
Zao.
I've heard of them.
Living Sacrifice.
Oh, okay. No.
Concrete, Project 86, which their first record was...
It sounds familiar, but maybe you've played them for me or something.
I don't think I have, but their first record was like Rage Against the Machine meets... Man, I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Like, but it was like underground, like harder Rage Against the Machine. Because he kind of like yelled and was like really good at lyrical writing. And who else? And that Ludacris band. And Ludacris was like bonkers. Like Living Sacrifice was more like heavy metal, like crazy, like riffing, like super fast, like blast beat stuff.
Yeah.
Which I still hadn't seen in person, and it blew my mind because as a musician, I was like, "What am I watching?" I'd never seen blast beat, like gravity beat, like drumming before.
That's crazy.
And then when Ludacris played, it was hardcore that was mega heavy with crazy stage presence. Like half the stuff didn't sound right because they were like freaking out as they were playing and stuff. But you were there for it. You weren't like these guys aren't that tight. But
it didn't matter.
Then it turned and then
guitars in the air,
exactly,
behind the back, like
they're in the
broken.
Air. Yeah, exactly.
And it's amazing.
I remember because that was like. There was another Christian band called like Burden of a Day, and I never really got into them. They were like 2008-ish, but the guitar player would like do like backflips and stuff. Like they were like their stage presence was like almost like too acrobatic, you know?
Yeah.
But like Ludacris, I remember the bass player and like the guitar player, maybe they were a 4-piece because maybe the singer wasn't. Anyway, I remember like one was running at him and the other guy was gonna like jump over him, assuming he was gonna duck, but he jumped too, and they just like collided in the air, and like it was just like mayhem.
Yeah.
But it was mega heavy. It wasn't just like a circus show. So I left that being like, this is absolutely insane. So getting back to the exposure of music, I was like exposed to all this crazy stuff. Friends of mine at school listening to indie rock, seeing this heavy stuff like in person for the first time. So that like embodied in me. Embodiment was another one. They played with Stretch Armstrong.
Yeah.
They were all like, I don't know. I feel like the hardcore got set in me because I saw it in person for the first time. I didn't just hear it through speakers.
Yeah.
I saw the stage presence of it being played live.
That's
and
cool.
That sunk in me way harder because I'd never been exposed to anything like that. But then I got really, really into acoustic projects. Like Further Seems Forever was one of my favorite bands for a while, but just The Moon Is Down, the first record. And that was headed by a young man named Chris Carrabba, who started Dashboard Confessional, which I'm sure you've heard.
I've heard of it. That wasn't my cup
emo
of tea,
acoustic stuff.
But yeah.
But Further Seems Forever, I'll show you some stuff. I'll show you some stuff off The Moon Is Down before you leave tonight. But the Moon Is Down was like indie rock, but again, super intricate drum work that you couldn't follow. Like it was so crazy and so ahead of its time. But Chris Carrabba still wrote like Dashboard style lyrics. They were like super emotional, but he would like be belting them because of how loud and intricate the music was. Mm-hmm. That band went on to write like 3 more records with a different frontman without Chris, but that first record was pretty incredible. So anyway, I had this whole basket smorgasbord.
Yeah, all at like the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So I feel like I kind of experimented with different styles as I wrote music.
Yeah.
Even inside acoustic stuff.
I wish I would have had more. Like,
yeah, but you got.
I had a great scene and like tribe of people.
Yes, exactly.
And local, like down the street, like we built the stages whenever the venue moved from like different locations and stuff. Shout out Susie. We're still friends on Facebook.
Nice.
and she like owned the local venue, literally called the venue. But like, the first time that she put on a show was at her house, and we played at her house in the yard, and like that.
You
was
burned it to the ground.
Oh, dude,
kind of.
But she's like the sweet, just little big family and stuff.
Yep.
And but so just like passionate about like the local punk scene and giving us a better place to play, because before that was like the popular place was El Miami South Beach, which is just like a nightclub kind of a thing. It was very weird, and the stage was like kind of high off the ground.
Yeah,
and
it's weird when you're playing like 12 people.
Yeah, we packed. Well, I mean, we packed. It was small, but we packed that place out. Like all the shows were fun.
Yeah,
but those were like $4 cover fee, like $3 cover, and everyone in there is like 17 and under. You know, and there'd be like 7 or 8 bands. And, I mean, and the shows would go to like 2 a.m.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was so much fun. But then Susie like gave it a home, and that was cool.
Awesome.
It made it safer and like more exciting. And we played at her house a couple times. We played on the porch one freezing cold night, tiny little porch.
Yeah.
And so much fun though. And then she opened up the venue at a few different locations, and we were ingrained in the scene. Everything we did was like just building the community and playing shows and traveling or whatever it may be, but it was playing music.
There are a few people like that in New Hampshire that had venues. She reminds me, I don't know how old she is, but she reminds me of this woman named Linda that owned a venue called the Sad Cafe. And that was in Plastown, New Hampshire. And she like didn't seem like she would even remotely be interested in hearing any sort of loud music, let alone loud music that had people like yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
And she gave Southern New Hampshire like a home for any venues. I mean, I played acoustic shows there, and I saw traveling like hardcore bands come through there playing with local bands that were just like mega heavy.
Yeah.
She recorded every live set, so at the end of your set
yeah.
she'd give you a
That's
CD, because you do sound checks, and her producer would have everything mixed well for the recording. I mean, I to this day in my CD booklet, I've got How Near How Far sets, which were like my full band, and How Lost We Are sets where I played acoustic from like 05 to 08.
It's so cool.
They're cringy for me to listen to.
But it's nice to have, like, look back on. Like,
But she was always into that. She was always like, even if it was a band that like was coming through that no one had heard of before, and they were like real heavy, but like just kids, and they weren't like good at all.
Yeah.
She would always have words of encouragement for them before they would leave. You know, like, thank you so much for coming.
That
You
would
guys
stay
have a
with
home
them
here.
forever.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Like, that's so important.
Yep.
Susie was like that. I would say she's probably like, I don't know, late 60s now.
That's probably how old Linda is. Yeah. So at the time, she was older than us, obviously.
Oh yeah,
by a couple decades.
I mean, she had like kids that were like my age,
right,
and older and stuff too.
Yeah, but that's great. Yeah, any small local scene needs something like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I mean, hats off to her. I feel like she like kept the punk scene and the hardcore scene alive in Dalton.
Yeah,
and because I mean, like a bunch of bands from all over Northwest Georgia and like Southeastern Tennessee like played there. And there were like even tour bands could come through, like bigger bands that would play with other local bands, but these are small venues.
Yeah,
and I think the last location that was there for a few years was like pretty big. I mean, you had like a few hundred people in there or something, but for like a local place,
yeah,
it was pretty big. And that's all it was. Though. It was just the venue. But yeah, and then whenever the door shut on that, I mean, no bands were together anymore. There were no shows going on anywhere. I mean,
New Hampshire felt like that.
Yeah, just people just turned the lights off and then.
Yep. No
forgot
scene.
about it. Yeah, you just forgot.
Scene.
Yeah. Just like, all right, and now we're all sitting here 20 years later or whatever.
Yeah.
10 years later, just like, oh yeah, that did just stop.
Yeah. I mean, and you wonder, I always thought about it in New Hampshire, you know, like what younger generation came up that I just wasn't aware of. You know, because like the venues we used to always play at stopped being a venue. And then, you know, a couple of years ago by and I got into my own, you know, lane with things other than music. And then I'd ask like, hey, so is there even a scene? And like the answer would either be no, or a couple of years later, be like, yeah, it's a thriving little scene now.
Let's go to some shows.
I'd be into that.
Let's do just like some local ones. I'm in some like Chattanooga like hardcore group that's pretty good on Facebook, and then like I follow a few of the venues like Instagram pages, and they just post flyers up. But there's like regular shows.
I'd be into that.
Let's just hit a couple small ones.
Logan Finkel.
He goes to shows all the time.
He had like the weekend after I moved here, he like texted me about some like random little hardcore show going on with I told you, I can't remember now. I told you the band name. And you're like, yeah, it's a local hardcore band.
Gum?
Yes. Yeah. I think that sounds right.
Yeah, GUMM.
Yes.
Yeah. They're awesome.
Yep.
I
didn't end up going, but like, yeah, I could tell that they're
like Minor Threat hardcore. They're like, man, they're so good. Yeah. Their stage presence incredible.
Awesome.
You were talking about stage presence earlier. Carly took me to the 26 Years of Bullshit tour of Every Time I Die a few years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
Those guys,
stage presence
are like
wild.
in their 40s, and they're like one of the guitarists is up like 15 feet off the ground on monitors and like throwing his guitar around his body and like doing all kinds of. I mean, when I was a teenager or even in my early 20s, like I started pits. Like I would with the guitar in hand. I mean, I would get out in there and get going, or and even like Krautzer sometimes, but like they're doing it. They're in their 40s,
right?
At like the Masquerade.
Yeah.
And it's like there are like 1,000 people here,
right.
And all of us are old, but it was so much fun.
Yeah.
Oh man, their stage presence was insane.
Yeah.
And they're just as tight as they were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, every song just boom, 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 and just so good.
Yeah, and lots of power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Citizen, I saw them not long ago. Citizen and The Story So Far, but I don't know. The Story So Far just doesn't like. Their like stage presence isn't that great. It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's just not like. you'd expect like whatever headlining band to be like
Yeah.
put on a big performance, and they just, I don't know, their shows are, I love watching them live. I want to see them again, but like
Yeah.
they weren't like super memorable as far as like
Right.
how it felt like that night. But like oh man, Movements was really good. I like their presence a lot.
Yeah, they're great. I haven't seen them live, but
Yeah.
I love their style. Because when their latest record came out,
It took me a minute, but I got into it.
So when I first listened to it, I was like, no, I'm not into this. And then I quickly went back and I was like, no, they haven't put out a record in years.
Yeah.
Like it was a
It's
few
like
years.
2-3 years or something.
And I was
that.
like, no, I really like what they're doing here. And I remember reading after that, after I
Yeah.
got into it, Seneca or whatever record that Seneca is on. I actually read like a quick interview that he gave. I can't remember his name, but the singer, and actually said that because apparently they were probably getting a lot of like negative press from people who were like liked their early stuff too much. And he basically said what any artist that I can totally relate to would say. He said, we didn't want to pigeonhole ourselves into this like this box that we had to reside in every time we wrote a record. We're musicians and we want to be able to explore.
Yeah, we want to like grow.
Yeah, exactly. So I love
progress as musicians and as a band.
They're an
together.
incredible band. Like they're like, yeah, their songwriting capabilities are incredible.
Yeah, the music is great.
Yep.
The music is great.
And that's
it's Citizen that got the same thing because their latest release was like different.
Yep.
And even at first, like knee jerk reaction is like, man, I liked your old stuff. Like, why are you changing?
I wanted a new version of the old stuff.
But like, and I see their stuff on like Instagram and stuff. Like I follow Matt Carrickis on Instagram, and he's got like it's engaging, but like he puts like everything out there. It's really cool. He also just got engaged. Congratulations. I don't know if he's ever going to listen to this, but that would be really cool. I'm going to send this to. I'm going to DM him later. But anyway,
I'll send you this as an isolated clip.
Yeah, for real.
Car talk, Citizen.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
But anyway, their latest album was very different, and like when I listened to it the first time, it was after Movements had put their album out, I think, and I was already in that mindset of like, I need to like actually try, because they're great musicians.
Yeah.
And the band's great, and anything they put out, I've enjoyed it all. So like, but surely I need to like be in that mindset of like, don't expect old stuff, expect like whatever they're into, I'm into.
Well, and when we were talking about seeing live shows,
Yeah.
like seeing live shows and how you're affected by that, like I'll never not be able to be in my head when I'm at shows, because most of the shows I've been to, as we've already talked about, were people I knew, or I knew somebody that had something to do with the band. Like I didn't normally go, oh, there's a band coming through town, I'm gonna go see them and like purchase a ticket.
Yeah.
It was usually side stage or something. And if there was a big band playing, I would, man, I think more so than when I would watch Rodney Mullen skate before I would go ride my bike, you know, as like motivation or inspiration to go ride. I used to watch Rodney Mullen skate videos before I'd go ride. Before I would, you know, like be at a car show and you see all these different cars and you're taking like your own notes. You're like, oh man, I'd love to do that, or I'd love to incorporate this and that, or these things together. I don't think there's ever been anything more powerful to me than when I'm at a show and the lights are off and all the music's like, you know, everything's cranked up, because all I'm doing is I'm listening to guitar tone, I'm listening to how tight they are, I'm watching their stage presence, I'm looking at their gear, and I'm not even there anymore. Every time I'm at a show, which is, it's been years since I've been at one, but I'm always in my head going, how do I build this? Like with my style, like how do I build the light? Like I remember like trying to learn about DMX programs for light sequencing, because I wanted to, Moving Mountains was good at this too. And I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but like I wanted silence and darkness to be just as much as powerful elements as my live show as the music and lighting were. And I wanted the quiet points, because in some of the Rising Sea, you know, the project I have now, that is a project for like the last 10 years now, that only has demos on SoundCloud and, you know, in the YouTube videos. But like, I wanted the quiet elements of the songs to be darkness playing live. And then as as things started to crescendo or build, I wanted that light to gradually get brighter. And I had this whole theme. And if Taylor is still listening to this, him and I would sit in our cars in a Taco Bell parking lot until the sun came up.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about this.
Those are
like,
the best.
I still sometimes have dreams about it where I'm thinking about the Rising Sea. Like my project from 2009 till now, it's been the Rising Sea. I haven't changed the name. It's like, sooner or later, I'm going to put a record out with the Rising Sea. And we'd sit in a car like from 9 p.m. till 7 a.m. talking about what we're talking about the element, like stage elements, overall band theme, like the whole overall like themed albums are like my favorite, like
Oh yeah, me too.
like storyboard albums.
Yeah,
like,
everything
my
ever put out.
Gosh,
had to
like,
be,
as
themed.
a short example, my first How Lost We Are record was called So Far as a short, but it was a 5-track record, and the track names spelt out the actual album name. So as the track list goes, is the album name is So Far All I've Learned, This Town Got the Best of Me, When We Lost Control for the Very Last Time. So like the second, So the second track on that record is All I've Learned.
Yeah.
So that's a standalone track record. But like obviously it's pretty long-winded. So the record, I just called it the So Far EP, but it was So Far All I've Learned, This Town Got the Best of Me, When We Lost Control for the Last Time.
Yeah.
Like so it was like basically like a breakup story.
Yeah.
Basically. But like I was into that from the get-go. I wanted like themes, and when it came to the like live presence, I never was able to take that step because I didn't have the money. I didn't have the money to like to like develop the lights. I wanted to build these wooden box vintage tower speakers, right? Like these 70s mid-century era tower speakers, wood cabinet with real nice screens, but have lights in them. And so those were the light apparatuses. And then you'd have like, you know, I'd have to use like a DMX program in order to like sequence the lights to a click track to the actual audio sequencing. You know, you'd be down this crazy rabbit hole. But I was ready for it. Yeah. Spiritually, I was ready for it.
Well, I mean, it's also nice that you knew that like the whole picture. It wasn't just I wrote some music.
Oh, dude.
You know, it was the whole, and that's I equate that to like your car building and like how my car building too. Like we think about more of just all aspects.
Yeah. It was exhausting. Like it was, and I attribute that to what I bite off now. Like even this podcast being one of those things where I bite off more than I can chew, but it's this giant vision. Like I've got this giant vision. And now at 37 years old, I'm wondering, should I have like focused on like a little bit narrower scope of something? Because, well, you're right. I mean, I do agree, but you see these younger kids that focused on like this one pinpointed thing and got really successful at it. And like, for me, I'm like, am I like focusing on far too many, like, how do I narrow this in? But it was the same thing with the music. And I feel like that's why the music ended up stopping, because it was all of this or nothing. And now it's nothing, you know? And well, it's not really nothing for anyone listening. The intro and outro music you hear on this podcast episode is me. Yeah. Like that's, and it's, even though it's a synthwave track, I wrote it from scratch.
Yeah. But that's something that you'll keep forever. I don't mean that what you wrote, but I just mean like, even though you're not playing music right now, especially live, and you haven't in a while, like you're still a musician. Yeah. And it'll be there forever. Yeah. And that's the same with me. Like Tyler and I are still writing some stuff, and we want to play some stuff at some point, but like we're not rushing it or pushing it. Like, because at that point, if we do, we're going to just like push it away too fast. Yeah. Or burn out. Yeah. And I just don't want to do that. I mean, I'm busy, you're busy, and we're all still trying to figure that out. But like, I want that to happen, so that I want to. So now I'm making sure that I don't like force it, because, like, well, let's knock it out because we didn't get to do it before, or like we stopped at the wrong time, right? And I don't want to like mess that up. If I'm gonna have a second chance, like I want it to like
be right.
Just it's got to be right.
Yeah, timing is everything with stuff like that.
Yeah, and it is.
I mean, when I think about it, I know there's a reason why I get goosebumps, physical goosebumps, when I'm driving in the car on like a hot day, and just that one part of that song, just boom, goosebumps. Yeah. Like I've tried describing it, and I have a terrible time describing it, but it's yeah, music just moves me in a way. It doesn't have to be, the goosebumps aren't because it was this compelling lyric that made me sad. And I'm like, I'll get it from a hieroglyphics song, like a Deltron song, like a hip hop beat. And this one beat will hit just right. Or it'll be something like an Explosions in the Sky song that is meant to be listened to on a night drive and take you on this vast journey emotionally. Yeah. Like that stuff. Or Every Time I Die. Like
Counterparts.
Yes.
The first time I'd never heard of the band Counterparts, and you were like, there's 2 songs, we have to listen to these 2 songs back to back and don't talk.
Tragedy.
Basically. Tragedy, yeah. And no, I'm not even kidding you. Like any of my buddy, I've probably done this 3 or 4 times now that I've introduced Counterparts to somebody else, and I've said, listen to these 2 songs. Tyler and I did that. We drove up to Knoxville to get tattooed like a year ago, and we talk about music all the time. He's not even a car guy. We only talk about music really. But we, we're talking about hardcore and all this other stuff that we were like robbed ourselves of. And I was like, this band, these 2 songs, John did this to me. I'm going to do it to you. I want you to experience it. And even whenever I pull them up now, like, because I listen to them all the time now, especially that Nothing Left to Love, or that's what it's called, the latest album. Nothing Left to Love.
Something like that.
I think it's that.
Yeah.
But I mean, front to back, cover to cover.
Yep.
I mean, all of their releases have been incredible front to back. But like, I'll even like play those 2 songs for myself occasionally so that I can like relive. But because there are specific parts in each of those songs that like I felt internally.
I mean, they're incredibly good. Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know, Counterparts, Canadian hardcore band, young dudes.
So good.
They somehow... Like, I'm getting goosebumps. Yeah. I've literally got goosebumps because I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about the like the bridge in Tragedy right now. I can hear that, and I've got physical goosebumps right now. But they somehow are able to like mesh heavy music and heavy vocals with melody, like guitar melody. I mean, like this is a band that vocally is at 100 the whole way through the record. No melodic singing. Like, some bands can do it. Some bands are actually kind of good at it. Some bands introduce it later on. Like the Ghost Inside started singing. Like it used to be like just the hammers down the whole way through the record. We're not gonna sing. We're not gonna la 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 this.
Yeah.
And the Ghost Inside started doing it. They do it very well. I still love it. But Counterparts is still like, if there's any melodic vocals, it's gang vocals. It's like some sort of like...
And I love that.
Yes,
coming from like punk rock, that is cool.
And it's some like one-liner that's like the nail in the coffin liner, and you're driving your car and you're like, oh my gosh. Like...
but it's not like grungy heavy. It's clean, melodic, beautiful music.
The guitar work...
and heaviness.
Yeah, the guitar work, they somehow meshed like... As Cities Burn did this first, I think. It was the first band that I ever heard do it.
Yeah.
Like intricate guitar work that's melodic, but also mega heavy. And so Counterparts like mixed all this stuff. So if you haven't heard them, go to a record called Tragedy Will Find Us and listen to Tragedy. And that
then the song after that.
Yes. That goes right into, I can't remember the track listing.
Because the ending of the song after that.
No, it's the song before Tragedy.
Oh,
goes right into Tragedy.
Well, all right. Hold on.
Go ahead.
I'm not
going
to
to
play it, but I'm gonna pull it up.
But yes, they did an incredible job, like meshing all these styles together. Yeah. And it's not for everybody, but man, oh man, did it strike a chord.
Yeah, I mean, if you like heavy music, they're great. Tragedy Will Find Us is the album.
Right.
And
the song before Tragedy is the one that...
Burn.
Yes, Burn
and Into Tragedy, because they flow well
together. It's basically one song.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it like the ending... the ending of Burn and then the beginning of Tragedy is...
meshes.
It meshes. It is 2 different guitar tones.
Yeah, exactly.
But it meshes like well enough that you could
there's no
play them like doom.
Yeah.
And they're great. But
there's barely a break.
The ending of Tragedy, oh my...
Yeah. Make My Skin Your Sanctuary.
It's so good. Yeah. Just, oh man.
It's good.
I'm listening to that as soon as I leave here.
Real
loud. Loud.
It has been a while since I've listened to it because I get caught up.
It's been a while for me too, yeah.
Well, I get caught up listening to podcasts when I'm downstairs working when I should be listening to that stuff over and over and over again. Man. But yeah, I mean, it's I forgot why we started talking about that. Oh, it was the overall vision, like the overall vision of like the encapsulation and how, and basically getting goosebumps listening to stuff. And Counterparts is a good example.
Yeah, that
of
was just like one example.
Yeah, where like it's heavy music, but whether or not it's like Brendan's lyrics or the way like the song musically like is traversed basically.
I mean, but the whole picture, the whole vision is so important, so that when that moment happens, that like, when that one bridge or that one verse, but not the words, like when the whole picture, the lighting, the mood, the emotion in the room, like the guitar tone, the drums, whatever, like when it becomes like a, I don't know, like that euphoric or like almost like I don't know, like religious experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that is so freaking cool.
I mean, and I guess that's where the genesis of where we ended up talking about Counterparts was I was basically getting at that. I know there's a reason why I feel that way when I'm listening to music, like in the car or if I'm working downstairs and I do have music on, and there's that one part, like I'll stop and just kind of like, as if almost like in a trance.
That moment.
So I try to listen to that and be like, there's a reason why music moves me like this. And there's a reason why I've acquired talent enough to write music and play music like that or compose it like that. So I always wonder if I'm like not listening to a calling, like even though there's only so many hours in the day and you get so immersed with stuff, even if it's strictly therapeutic as far as the calling goes. You're destined to write this music to maybe affect some people, but it's your therapy. Yeah, exactly. And so as we speak, across the hall, all my stuff, since I moved here in June of last year, well, August technically, all my stuff is still, all the music stuff left untouched since I moved here.
Yeah.
And now that the studio's in this room, I've been meaning to start moving it out into that big room and get some like room dividers and like set the studio space up. And
I would love that, dude. I would come and like just jam here,
dude. As we're talking, I knew we were going to talk about music more on this episode, but as we're talking about it, I like
laying it out.
I can't wait to get stuff set up now because the intonation on my Telecaster is really bad. Like the neck has become warped over. I haven't played it enough, and the intonation is so bad now that you can't. Your scales are all wrong. You can't. You can tune the guitar, and your first 5 frets might stay in tune, and the more you work up the fret, the sharper everything gets. So I can't even record the 30-second blips that I use in the YouTube channel episodes now. Like I can't do anything now. And I've got an old Fender Venus guitar that also, that was like my first electric guitar. A pretty rare guitar now, but both my electrics need lots of work. So I've wanted to purchase. So I'm a Fender guy. So I know you and I've talked about this.
Yeah.
But I've got one of the last year California built Fender DeVille's, which is a 410 combo amp, tube amp, spring reverb, like no solid state. It's as
cool.
It's as legit vintage as it gets. I think it's a 1998, but they started making them in Mexico in the early 2000s. So mine's like a California made one. Mm-hmm. That amp with my Fender Telecaster and Venus has for what I'm going for, the best tone ever. So my dream guitar though is an American Jazzmaster or a Jaguar. Yeah. So that style is like my favorite and the tone that they get. So I've been putting off buying a Jazzmaster forever because they're like $2,000.
They're very cool.
And a white on mother of pearl pickguard. Well, it's like my dream guitar. And I was telling Kayla this, like now that I sold the Century, like I was putting it off. I put it off first. I was about ready to purchase the guitar the beginning of 2021 last year. Then I went into that shop space back home in New Hampshire, and now my expenditures went up a couple grand a month, and I'm like, I can't do it. I'm being self-employed. I can't budget my money out. I'm gonna play it safe.
Yeah.
Then I started to get on top of that, and I'm like, all right, I think I'm ready. Then all of a sudden I move halfway across America. And so I'm like, nope, definitely not now. I can't do it now. I've got too much overhead, too much to get settled back into. And so that all got put back on the back burner. So now that the Century sold, I'm like, now's the time. I need to do it now before I'm like back in a position where I'm like trying to like talk my way out of it.
Yeah.
So anyway, what I'm getting at is as we're talking about all of this and I'm getting goosebumps just talking about music, I think that's my next step. I got to set the studio up out there in the main room. I got to pull the trigger on the guitar because, man, like just at midnight, if I'm not tired enough to go to bed yet and I'm just sitting and I'll put on like, cause I'm big with delay, like I have a loop pedal and I'll loop a few like guitar measures with delay and stuff and build this big thing with only like 3 or 4 guitar layers. And I'll sit there and just have it loop and just sit there and be in my head. Yeah. And I'm like, there's a reason for that. And yeah, I think we all need to definitely make something happen.
Yeah.
Cause I think like the character dynamics of like what you play, what I like, I think all that stuff can. Are we forming a band on this podcast episode?
So we're in a band now.
Yeah.
No, but that was an important thing too, because there was one day where I was talking to Tyler and I was like, I have enough friends locally that are musicians and played music, and we all kind of played a little different stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like that would be kind of cool if we just kind of sat in a room together with instruments and we're like,
yeah,
what happens?
Let's go. Yeah.
I mean, like let's all kind of input our influence and see if anything can happen. And if it's something happens for a few of us and some for the rest or all of us, whatever. I mean, that would be so cool.
That'd be awesome.
Just to see what happens. I mean, it's been years since I played music. I bought a guitar a couple of years ago and I've been playing some like another Telecaster. Mm-hmm. And I was a Gibson guy for a long time back when I played a bunch, because I played like SGs and some Les Pauls, but like it was a little like, I don't know, it was a little like flashy for me. I wanted to had like a Les Paul double cutaway.
Yep,
that was real cool. That's like a 70s style looking guitar,
right?
Like flat.
Yep.
And I played Telecasters too, but I envisioned more. I leaned more towards like the Gibsons.
Yep.
But now I like only like Telecasters. Like that's the only guitar like I want.
That's what I played.
Yeah.
I mean, my Telecaster, I played every band I've been in aside from acoustic stuff with that Telecaster.
Yeah. The last band I played in, Leave Home, which was the most fun band I'd ever played in my life, was like more rock and roll fun, like party rock kind of stuff.
Yep.
I played a Telecaster in it, and it was because it fit that music.
Yeah,
it would play like a cleaner tone. I mean, it was distorted, but it was way cleaner.
Right.
And all just like melodic singing and stuff, and we harmonized and things.
Yeah,
that was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I want to do that again, but like I don't have anybody that would want to play like that music.
That's my lane, not necessarily the rock and roll, but like the vocal harmonies and that type of stuff.
Well, that's where I think like if I brought in some influence like that, and Tyler brought his influence in it, and you brought yours, and when you get like Andy here, Finkel, man, I don't know, he's that second kid, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
But we got enough buddies.
Well, like I don't have any kids. So
Benny, he's a bass player.
Yeah, that's right.
And he's like good, like really good.
Yep.
And wants to play music.
Yep.
Wants to.
Yeah, he's significantly younger than us, so he's still got that spark.
Yeah, he's still got some drive.
Right.
And, we're tired old dudes that are.
Well, we just have more stuff going on.
Kidding,
yeah, I mean, I might not have kids, but I'm like, I'm praying for more hours in the day. You know?
For
I mean,
sure.
as we're recording this, and we're wrapping up. We're coming up on 2 hours now. I mean, it's 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
I mean, so like, where'd the day go? I mean, we both worked on our taxes today.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
So talking about being an adult, when you're at the point in your life where you don't just get a return, like you actually have to do your taxes.
Well, I hate to wrap it up.
Well, no, I mean, this has been good. I didn't know we were going to get 2 hours out of this, but
we're fun.
We're right at 2. Yeah, we need to do this more often.
Well, let's do that. Let's call it a night, and then let's do another one real soon.
Yeah,
we'll talk about because there's like a lot of things I wanted. We could even dive more down.
Absolutely.
I'm curious what like comments. I wonder what like people are going to be like into, like if they want to learn more about certain stuff. Then we can even have like a part 2 to this if you want. I'm over here writing out your plans.
No, but that's
you know what I mean. Like I'm into it.
Like I told you, I don't have having a home studio. I mean, I know I have to travel a lot to get different people on as like guests on the podcast. But building this home studio out is something I always wanted to do in an area where I'd have friends who were comfortable like you are being here and just having a conversation with me. So as far as I'm concerned, we do this a lot. Because it's as far as I'm concerned, it's much better than me sitting in here alone staring at the wall trying to keep people interested in what I'm trying to talk about.
Less of an interview, more just like a conversation.
Well, that's been the MO of this from the get-go.
And
I mean, and I didn't think I I like telling stories. I'm obviously a talker in my friend group. Whenever we're in circles and parking lots at car shows or car
John
meets.
Ludwig, a talker. Oh man,
So,
Kayla's dying right now.
Yeah, if she's made it this far.
She's typing out all caps. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, right.
3 hours of Waffle House. The old guy, long cart.
Oh yeah, goodness gracious.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a whole different story.
No,
But yeah,
we're not telling it tonight.
yeah, I think I've already told it. No, the podcast has been gone for so long.
Oh, yeah.
First episode back was Aiden.
Hey, first
so.
episode back. You just got to catch people up on
I got
your
lost
parking
it.
lot stories.
Yeah. That's what I'll do. Next
could do a
episode,
solo one.
I'll talk to you about. No, I'll have you here so I can tell you the stories.
Just tell me the stories. I'll just sit here.
Well, before we go, plug. Where can people see your stuff? Mason Gavin on Instagram,
Yeah. Just at Mason Gavin, Instagram.
Riverside Chattanooga,
Yeah. Riverside Chattanooga. I'm the organizer of that. And check us out.
and Chattanooga Off Road Meet. What's
Chattanooga Off-Road Monthly Meet.
Is the Instagram.
Yeah. So, that's my wife and I. We host a monthly off-road get-together where we gather and we hang out, drink coffee or whatever. And then we split up into different groups and go wheeling together. And it's a lot of fun. Check us out.
Chattanooga Off Road Monthly Meet
Yes.
on Instagram. Yeah, I knew it was a long one.
Yep.
Well, guys, same as always. John.Ludwick on Instagram, Ludwig's Garage. And actually, since we've been talking about music, The Rising Sea is my music Instagram. There's not much there. I think the last 3 posts have been a year apart each.
Yeah.
It's not good. I need to focus more on it. But that's where you can find me. As we speak, I'm pretty sure the Patina Paradise merch drop is still live. If this is coming out after that, I apologize there. I don't even know which way's up anymore. If you're just listening on Spotify and iTunes, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's just youtube.com/John Ludwig. Doing lots of the automotive. Trying to upload once or twice weekly. I think with the podcast coming back, it should be twice weekly on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Trying to make a hard push on that. But thank you guys so much for listening and or watching. Yeah, we're going to make this a regular thing. Hopefully we'll see you guys in the next week.
Yep. See ya.
Peace out. Was that your stomach? Or
Yeah,
mine?
I think it was no, it was my stomach. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hungry too.
Yeah. It's
It's
late. I'm tired.
Yeah. Food and bed.
Oh man.
All right, thanks guys.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.